Here's how you spot someone who's about to get replaced at work. They still do everything the exact same way they did 5 years ago, while their younger colleagues are learning new tools every month. I'm not here to sugarcoat this. If you're over 30 and haven't updated your skills recently, you're in danger. But here's the twist. The moment you start acting too eager about learning new things, people start questioning why. Are you insecure? Are you worried about your job? Did someone say something to you? After 3 decades in corporate environments, I've seen this pattern destroy careers. Good people, experienced people, getting sidelined not because they couldn't learn, but because they learned in a way that screamed desperation. So let me show you exactly how to upgrade your skill set without painting a target on your back. The problem isn't that you need to learn. Everyone knows that. The problem is how you learn makes you look either confident or panicked. And in corporate politics, perception is everything. Think about it. When a 35-year-old suddenly signs up for every training program available, what does management think? When a 45-year-old starts asking junior employees how to use basic software, what does that signal? When a 50-year-old mentions they're taking online courses in every meeting, how does that come across? It looks like fear, and fear is contagious in the workplace. I learned this the hard way. Back in 2015, I watched a colleague, brilliant guy, 25 years of experience, destroy his reputation in 6 months. He panicked when he heard the company was adopting new project management software, started taking courses, asking everyone for help, mentioning his learning progress in every conversation. Within 3 months, people stopped inviting him to important meetings. Within 6 months, he was restructured out. Not because he couldn't learn the software, everyone learned it eventually, but because he broadcasted his insecurity so loudly that leadership lost confidence in him. So here's the framework I've developed. I call it the silent upgrade system. First rule, never announce you're learning something until you're already decent at it. This is critical. When you tell people you're learning, you're admitting you don't know. When you casually use a new skill in a meeting, you're demonstrating competence. The difference is massive. Don't say I'm taking a course on data analytics. Instead, 3 months later, drop an insight in a meeting. Based on the data patterns I noticed, we might want to consider this approach. Nobody asks how you learn to notice those patterns. They just see someone who knows their stuff. Second rule, frame everything as efficiency, not survival. Never say, I need to learn this to stay relevant. Always say, I found a faster way to do this. People respect optimization. They pity desperation. I once needed to learn a new CRM system that was replacing our old one. I didn't tell anyone I was learning it. I spent 2 weeks after hours getting comfortable with it. Then in a team meeting, I shared my screen and walked everyone through a process. I found this view that makes client tracking much simpler. Want me to show you? Suddenly, I'm the helpful expert, not the old guy scrambling to keep up. See the difference? Third rule, learn from resources that don't scream I'm behind. LinkedIn Learning, Coursera, Udemy, these are fine, but don't put every certificate on your LinkedIn profile the day you finish it. That's a rookie move. Instead, join professional communities where learning is normalized. Industry Slack channels, professional associations, advisory boards. When you learn in these contexts, it looks like you're staying connected to your field, not catching up on basics. Fourth rule, teach while you learn. This is the secret weapon most people miss. Find something you're learning and identify one aspect you can share with your team before you've mastered the whole thing. Let's say you're learning Power BI. You don't need to be an expert to share one useful visualization technique with your team. You position it as here's something interesting I came across, rather than I'm trying to learn this entire platform. Teaching serves 2 purposes. It cements your own learning, and it positions you as someone who brings value, not someone who's playing catch up. Fifth rule, strategic visibility without oversharing. You want people to notice you're evolving, but you don't want them to see the messy middle of your learning process. Here's what this looks like in practice. You're learning Python for data analysis. Bad approach, mentioning in meetings that you're struggling with loops and functions. Good approach, 6 months later, automating a report that used to take your team 5 hours. Oh, I just wrote a quick script for this. Saved us a bunch of time. Nobody needs to know you spent 50 hours on YouTube tutorials and made 100 mistakes. They just see the result. Sixth rule, diversify your learning sources so no single gap is obvious. If you only learn one thing, it highlights what you didn't know. If you're constantly adding small capabilities across multiple areas, it looks like natural growth. I keep a rotation going. One month, I'm deepening my industry knowledge by reading analyst reports. Next month, I'm improving my presentation skills by studying TED Talks. Then I'm learning a technical tool. Then I'm working on leadership frameworks. This way, I'm always growing. But there's no single obvious deficiency I'm trying to fix. It just looks like I'm someone who values continuous improvement. Seventh rule, use your experience as the foundation, not the excuse. This is where a lot of senior people mess up. They either ignore their experience and try to become junior again, or they hide behind their experience and resist learning. The right approach? Position new skills as enhancements to your existing expertise. I'm not learning project management from scratch. I'm learning how agile frameworks can improve the project approaches I've been using for 20 years. See how that works? You're not starting over. You're upgrading. Eighth rule, create learning accountability that doesn't involve your workplace. Get an outside mentor, join a mastermind group, find a learning partner at a different company. People who can hold you accountable without it affecting your professional reputation. This gives you a safe space to admit what you don't know, ask dumb questions, and work through your learning struggles. Then you bring only the polished results to your actual job. Ninth rule, time your skill demonstration strategically. Don't randomly show off new capabilities. Wait for a moment when that skill solves a real problem. I learned basic video editing not because I wanted to be a video editor, but because I knew our team struggled to create internal communications. When the right moment came, a project needed a quick explainer video. I volunteered. Took me 3 hours, saved us a week of back and forth with the marketing department. Nobody asked when I learned video editing. They just appreciated that I solved a problem. That's the key. New skills should appear as solutions, not as evidence you were lacking something. 10th rule, never compare yourself to younger colleagues in terms of learning. This is the fastest way to look insecure. Don't say these kids know so much about social media, I need to catch up. Instead, identify what you need to know to do your specific job better and learn that. You don't need to know everything a 25-year-old knows. You need to know what makes you valuable in your role, plus enough emerging knowledge to stay relevant. That's it. I'll give you a real example from my own career. 3 years ago, I realized I didn't understand how AI was going to impact our industry. I could have panicked, signed up for a bunch of AI courses, and made it obvious I was scrambling. Instead, I started reading one AI newsletter every morning with my coffee. Just 10 minutes a day. I joined 2 industry groups discussing AI applications. I attended 1 webinar a month. I tested a few AI tools quietly on my own projects. 6 months later, when AI became a hot topic in our leadership meetings, I wasn't the expert, but I also wasn't clueless. I could contribute meaningfully to conversations. I could ask intelligent questions. I could evaluate vendor proposals. Nobody knew I'd been systematically learning. They just saw someone who stays informed. And that's exactly the perception you want. Now let's talk about what you should actually be learning. Because this matters. If you're learning the wrong things, even the best approach won't help you. Focus on 3 categories. Skills that eliminate friction in your current role. Skills that are becoming table stakes in your industry. Skills that differentiate you from both junior and peer competitors. For most senior professionals right now, that means some level of data literacy, even if you're not a data analyst. Basic understanding of AI tools relevant to your field. Digital collaboration platforms. And whatever specific technical or strategic skills are emerging in your particular industry. But here's the crucial part. You don't need to be the best at these things. You need to be competent enough that they're not weaknesses. Your real value is still your experience, your judgment, your relationships, your strategic thinking. New skills just ensure those strengths remain relevant. Let me give you the harsh truth about age discrimination. It exists, but it's not actually about age. It's about obsolescence. A 50-year-old who stayed current is more valuable than a 30-year-old with less experience. But a 50-year-old who stopped learning 10 years ago is a liability. The goal isn't to become a junior employee again. The goal is to remain a senior employee who also happens to understand the current landscape. One more thing about looking desperate. Desperation comes from fear, and fear comes from uncertainty. The antidote isn't just learning new skills. It's building genuine confidence that you can continue to adapt. That confidence comes from proving to yourself, not to others, that you can still learn effectively, that your brain still works, that you can figure things out. Every small skill you acquire builds that confidence. Start with something low stakes, a skill that's useful but not critical to your job. Maybe it's learning keyboard shortcuts that speed up your workflow. Maybe it's understanding how to use ChatGPT for research. Maybe it's improving your Excel skills. Pick something you can get decent at in a month. Prove to yourself you can do it. Then pick the next thing. Build momentum privately before you ever need to demonstrate anything publicly. And here's something nobody tells you. The most powerful position is being the person who helps other people adapt, not the person who's struggling to adapt themselves. Once you've quietly upgraded your own skills, position yourself as someone who helps others navigate change. Be the translator between old and new, the bridge between traditional approaches and emerging methods. This is how you turn learning from a defensive necessity into a leadership opportunity. You're not catching up. You're guiding others through the transition. Final thought. The workplace is changing faster than ever. That's not going to slow down, which means the skill of learning itself, the ability to adapt efficiently and confidently, is now more valuable than any specific skill you might learn. If you take one thing from this, make it this. Never let anyone see you panic. Learn strategically, demonstrate confidently, and always act like evolution is just part of who you are, not something you're scrambling to achieve. Hit subscribe if this helped.